Well, hello scrappers. Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. So what's going on today? Well, we have a computer up on the autopsy table here, a very, very old Dell computer. Okay? And why is it up here? Well, I got a couple of requests recently in video comments uh, on various videos where I'm dealing with stuff I've removed or that Johnny has removed from computers. And people say, hey, Mike, can you show us how you scrap out computers to find all this good stuff you're processing for gold and silver? And I'm like, okay, it's been quite a while since I've done a video like that. So, yeah, we can do that. All right, so we've got this old computer, and it is old. You may not get computers this old, or you may get computers even older. I don't know. Let's see. Intel Inside Pentium 4, designed for Microsoft Windows XP. It says XP on it, but over here there's a license sticker for Windows 2000. So I don't know. I don't know. That's a mystery to me. I don't know why it's got an XP designed for XP and a 2000 sticker on it. I mean, 2000 Windows 2000 is 2 generations before XP, so I don't know what's going on. Either way, it's an old computer, and it has been discarded by the previous owners as no longer of any use to them. So, whatever goodies are in its innards belong to me now. So, let me show you how to get it out. I get a few tools. Um, Most of the screws you're going to come across in these things are Phillips, but as soon as I say that, you're going to get a computer that's full of Torx bits, star bits, weird stuff you've never seen before. So it's always handy to have a set of all kinds of different screwdriver bits. If you're going to do a lot of computers like I'm going to do, because I've got like 35, 36 of these that I need to process after my big 5-day scrap haul, which I'll put a link to up in the upper right if you haven't seen that 5-day long marathon scrap haul where I brought home literal tons of stuff, including a bunch of these, which I still haven't got around to doing much with most of them. So I'm going to start working on them. Since I have so many computers to do, a power screw gun, battery operated screw gun comes in really handy. It helps you go through the computers a lot quicker and a lot easier on the wrists. Um, Wire cutters. Wire cutters will come in handy. In fact, we may get my bolt cutters out later, depending on what I find inside here. And I'll explain why bolt cutters would come in handy when we get there. Gloves would be nice because these computers, there's a lot of sharp edges in them. There's a lot of pointy things. I've got my hands bloody hundreds of times. I ought to be wearing gloves. My good gloves aren't here. I left them somewhere else. So hopefully we won't see too much blood spurting out of my hands while we do this. So yeah, and then also it's handy to have like a trash can nearby where you can throw the garbage and another bin nearby where you can throw the good stuff. Maybe a couple of bins if you're going to do a bunch of computers, several bins where you can sort stuff by type. So that's a good idea too. And when I start doing these seriously, I'll have a series of bins out here in buckets. I can just, throw RAM sticks in one, hard drives in another, yada yada yada, processors, heat sinks, so on. You know. Okay. Also, I need to tell you that this is the way I do it. This is not the way you have to do it. This is not the way a lot of people do it. A lot of people are into what's called micro scrapping, where they want to get every little juicy bit out of these things. Me, I don't have the time. I got a full-time job, a couple of hobbies, and a wife with a honey-do list. So, yeah, I'm going to go through these pretty quick and just sort of hit the high points. If you want to micro scrap them, you can. We'll talk about some of the things you can micro scrap if you want to as I pull them out. But I'm just going to hit the high spots, basically, the high dollar, easy to get to stuff, and leave the micro scrapping to somebody else. Okay? All right, so with all that out of the way, let's have a peek under the hood of this thing and see what we're dealing with. They all open differently, but with a little experience, you'll figure out how to do it. Oh yeah, lots and lots of dust bunnies. Those kind of go with the territory. You're going to find out these things are like little vacuum cleaners. They run and they run and they run, and their fans are sucking in dust, and it just, the insides of them is covered with dust. So, yeah, that's normal. You're going to get very dirty. My hands are already dirty. So, yeah, you're going to get very dirty. Let me move the camera a bit, move this a little bit, and we'll take a peek, look around inside, and see what has some value and how we're going to get it out. So here's sort of your 10,000 foot overview of this old computer. So what do we got here? We got power supply over here. We got a lot of wires. There's a lot of wires. I will harvest the wires. And I talked about a bolt cutter. A lot of times I will just take bolt cutters and cut this whole bundle of wire coming out of the power supply off and throw that in my wire bucket. But we also got these ribbon cables, these flat wires here for hard drives, CD-ROM drives, floppy drives, whatnot. So yeah, so we got those. So I'll harvest all the wires. There's expansion cards here. These are good. We'll get into those in a little bit. Those are some of my favorite things in computers, but my absolute favorite thing in computers are these RAM sticks. In fact, we'll pull those out right now. They are usually the very first thing I pull out of a computer. The RAM sticks. You see the gold on there? Yeah, it's shining. Yeah, I love RAM sticks. They're full of gold. They've got gold fingers on them, but they've also got a lot of RAM chips on them. And the RAM chips themselves are full of gold. And you know me, I'm pretty good at getting gold out of IC chips. So I love these things. They're great. What else have we got? Well, we got a chipset chip down here with an aluminum heat sink on it. And then the main processor chip is underneath this cowling here and underneath this big honking aluminum heatsink here. So, aluminum. I like aluminum. These are extruded aluminum. So, just throw them in a bucket. They pile up. And pretty soon you can take them to the scrapyard and make some good money off of them. And then what else have we got? Well, we've got a motherboard right down here. And the motherboard itself, has a lot of neat chips on it. Or you can sell the motherboard to a lot of scrapyards, either way. If you want to micro scrap the motherboard, you can, because it's got some good stuff on it. We'll talk more about what the good stuff on the motherboard is later, once we get more access to it. But, or you can just sell it to a scrapyard. Either way, a lot of scrapyards buy e-waste these days. So, depending on how much time and effort you want to put into it. What else have we got here? Well, we've got the drive bays up here. And it looks like the previous owners have removed the hard drive. So we don't have a hard drive. But I'll grab one and we'll talk about hard drives when the time comes. We've got a floppy drive over here. And we've got a CD-ROM, or actually DVD-ROM drive over here. So, now in this particular case, these come out real easy. Just like so. You're going to find a lot of cases where it's not that easy. More modern computers, this is not a modern computer by any stretch of the imagination, but it has a modern way of dealing with the drives. They come out real easy like that. A lot of times, though, you're going to have to unscrew a bunch of screws in awkward positions to get the drives out. This time, we're lucky. And we'll talk about what's good on those drives later. And like I said, I'll get a hard drive and we'll talk about it too, because a lot of the computers you're going to get are still going to have the hard drive in it. So I said I'm going to harvest these wires, so we'll just go ahead and do that right now. Get them out of the way, because they need to be out of the way before we can get like the motherboard and stuff out. So pull them right out. Set them aside. Usually got a bucket I stuff with ribbon cables, and there's another little ribbon cable here. It's going to be a little more difficult to get out, I think. We'll worry about that later. Again, it's a case of how far do you want to go. There's a lot of little wires inside most computers. And you want to take the time to get every single one of them. Every single one of these skinny little wires, it doesn't amount to anything. Some people will. Me, I'm probably not going to bother with the skinny little ones. I'm just going to go after the big stuff and leave it at that. Because, you know, it's going to take a million computers for wire like this to add up to anything at the scrapyard. So what's the point? I'm never going to have a million computers. Ooh, I'm getting dirty. Okay, so we got all that out of the way. Let me disconnect all the power wires from the motherboard while I'm standing here disconnecting wires. All right, I've disconnected all the power wires from the motherboard. I have to do that at some point, so might as well be now. Now, every computer is a little different about how they hold the accessory expansion cards in. This one, we're lucky. It's got a little plastic clip that just flips up. A lot of them, you got to take screws out. And sometimes the screws are weird. But this one, no. Whoops, comes right out. All right, there's a video card. Lots of gold fingers on it again. Very nice. As a card for resale, this really doesn't have any value. Okay? This is something you need to be aware of when you're scrapping out computers. A lot of times you'll pull a card out and you think, oh, look at those gold fingers. I'm going to cut those off and process them. What you need to do, though, is you need to check and see if the card has any value to it. A lot of times these cards have value for resale. All right, this card doesn't. I know from experience. It doesn't. It's just a generic VGA video card. Not a particularly new one, not a particularly nice one, okay? This card, though, is a different story. This card has a big connector on it that had a big cable that went from this card to a CNC mill. And this computer, when it was up and running at the place where I got it from, was running a big CNC mill and cutting stuff. So this interface card for running the mill, believe it or not, this has some value. You can find these for sale on eBay. You'll find this one for sale on eBay in the future, because I know I can make a lot more money on this card reselling it. I'll clean it up and get some nice photos of it. Then I know I can make a lot more money on this that reselling it than I can make from the gold and silver I can recover from it. All right, I just know that from experience. And I know this card works because my clients, where I picked this computer up from, told me the reason they retired this computer was not because it was broken or because it was old necessarily, but because the mill that this ran broke and they couldn't use it anymore. They got some more modern mills. So this board's good. Ask your clients about the stuff you're picking up. That's an important tip. Don't just back your truck up to their dock and load everything in and then drive off without finding out what you're getting. Because sometimes what you're getting is a lot more valuable for resale than for scrapping, okay? That's a lesson I learned early on. I know a lot of people don't have the time and energy to bother with trying to sell stuff on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. They don't want the hassle. Me, I don't care. I'll take the time, the energy. I'll take pictures. I'll list it. You know, I'll mother hen the listings. I'll answer the questions. I don't care, because I know in the end I'm going to make a lot more money than I would by scrapping the stuff out. And I do. I've been doing this forever. I've been selling stuff on eBay as long as eBay has existed. So I know the ins and outs of it. I've been getting pretty good at Facebook Marketplace and other stuff too. So if you want to make some extra money, figure out what you've got, whether it's any good, and whether it has any resale value. Okay? What else have we got here? This is just a serial I/O card. Again, no real value to this. I know from experience. So this and the video card, we can actually harvest the fingers off of and the IC chips and whatnot and get gold and silver out of them. But I'm going to try and resell the interface card. All right, so what's next? Well, I think probably next we need to get the processor out. Let me see if I can get this thing out of the way. Set it in there for now. Anything that I don't keep, I just put back in the case. And I'll tell you why later. Okay? Anything I don't want just goes right back in the case when I close the case up. And I'll tell you what I do with the cases later. All right, so let's see. Look at that. Lovely, very heavy extruded aluminum heatsink on the processor. That is definitely a must-have. This is worth money. So you get a bucket full of these, you take them to the scrapyard, they hand you money. That's the way it works. So we're going to set that aside. All right, down here we've got a processor. Ooh, this is an oldie but a goodie, let me tell you. It's got pins. Yeah, a lot of processors just have really thin gold pads on the bottom of them. This one's got a whole forest of gold pins there. That's nice. We can take those pins off and we can get the gold out of them. Also, underneath this heatsink, there's probably gold flashing there too. So I always harvest the processors. Set that aside. Put that over there with the RAM sticks. All right, so not the best tool for the job, but there. I can get this heatsink off. I'm going to have to pull that steel clip out of it, which just takes a minute. And I need to wear gloves for that because this is very sharp. I will be bloody. But I will put this with my extruded aluminum stuff. I'll put it with that big heat sink I just got. All right, so we put that over there. Let's see, we got a couple more cables to disconnect. Sorry, I bumped the tripod there. But looks like we've got all the power supply cables disconnected. Okay, so we've got an interesting motherboard here. It's this is the motherboard, this part right here, and then it's got a daughter card. I'd call it a riser card if it came out at a right angle, but it doesn't. So basically, I think what Dell was doing was they were selling this part of the motherboard for mini computer systems, and then for larger cases where people wanted more expansion slots, they had this little thing here. It gave you 2 more expansion slots, but you needed a bigger case for it. All right, whatever, Dell. It just means there's more gold and silver here for us. Now, getting these motherboards out can be tricky, especially on these particular Dell systems that open up like this. I know from experience, it's not easy always to get the motherboards out. So there's some screws, obviously. We'll take the screws out, and I usually miss 1 or 2 because, well, they're sometimes hard to see. Okay. There's usually screws around the processor, but I don't see any. So this is kind of an oddball motherboard. So I keep kicking the tripod, sorry. There's this lever right here, which if I pull it up, well, the motherboard wants to move, but it's acting like there's a screw still holding it. So somewhere in here, there might still be a screw that I have missed. So maybe there's a screw under this fan that I can't see. Let me see if I can get this fan out. Yeah, that lifts up. This is garbage, by the way. I'm going to throw it up here in one of the drive bays, like that. All right, so do I see any more screws? I don't. Do you see any screws out there in YouTube land? What am I missing? It's been a while since I worked on a Dell like this. I mean, it wants to come out, but oh, you know what? There's a catch. There's a little catch right here. I've never seen that before. I have never seen that before in a Dell motherboard. A little catch over here on the side. But now, look at this. The whole thing comes out. Now, there's a steel plate on the back, which we'll have to remove because the scrapyard won't want to give you top dollar for your motherboards if they've got a steel plate on the back of them that weighs a whole lot. So we'll have to take that apart. We'll do that in a bit. Okay, so now we're getting down to it. There's not much left in this box. So this is the point where I would probably go get my bolt cutters and cut this big bundle of wire off. here. Cut some of these wire ties off so we get them all together in one big bundle. So I cut this right here where it goes into the power supply, and then take all this wire. This is good heavy wire here, and get this out of the thing. So let me find my bolt cutters and we'll do that. Okay, I got my little bolt cutters here, and I'm just going to cut this big bundle of wire coming out of the power supply. Cut it right off. Okay, a couple little wires I probably need to go after with my wire cutters here. There we go. So there's that. This wire I'll take just because it's easy to remove. This wire, again, I'll take just because it's easy to remove. Well, I say that, but there we go. All right, the rest of it, I'm leaving. All right. Some of you are going to disagree with that. Some of you are going, no, take all those little wires. This is where we get into micro-scrapping. If you want to do micro-scrapping, you can do micro-scrapping. Some people are going to say, but no, there's good stuff inside the power supply, and there's only like, what, 3 screws holding it in. It should come out. Then you got more screws holding it together. Inside there's going to be a PC board, a transformer, some other stuff. Yeah, there's copper in that transformer. There's more wires in there. You can go after that if you want. My time is more valuable than what I'm going to get out of the power supply, okay? So I've taken everything off of this computer that I want. So that's just me. Like I said, you can do it your way. And we'll talk more about micro-scrapping here in a minute. Now, let me get the motherboard back over here. Again, you can micro-scrap your motherboards if you want to, or you can just sell them to the scrapyard. What I normally do, especially on newer motherboards, newer than this one, is I'll just sell them to the scrapyard because there really isn't that much good stuff on them. Yeah, there's some gold in these connectors, but there's not much. There's some gold in the processor socket, but not much. There's some gold in the connectors back here, but not much. Gold in these connectors over here, and then over here in the RAM stick connectors, but again, not much. And it's really hard to get out. So, newer motherboards, I don't even bother. Older motherboards, this one, and particularly older ones yet, that have a lot of these gold corner BGAs on them, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll cherry pick the gold corner BGAs off and maybe a few other components before I'll sell the motherboard to the scrapyard. They don't know the difference. They don't seem to care. So, anyway, that's what I do with the motherboards. Now, you can micro-scrap them if you want. You can go after every little component, every little IC chip, every little transistor, every little connector that has some gold pins in it. You can do that if you want. Me, I don't have time. I'll just sell the board to the scrapyard, let them deal with it, and walk away with some cash. Okay? So, let me set this aside. Once I do figure out how to get these steel plates off, they're going to go back in the case. Like I said, everything I don't want goes into the case. And why is that? Because the case is going to the scrapyard, okay? The case is steel. All these screws that hold the drive rails on, they're steel. There's steel in the drive rails, even though they're mostly plastic. So there's a floppy drive. Here's a DVD-ROM drive. Just put it all, just drop it all in the case. That's what I do. Everything you're not keeping, just drop it in the case. Close the case up. And set it aside, okay? And then once you got a whole crap ton of these, you take them to the scrapyard and you get paid for the steel content. That's what I do. So after I scrap out my whole 35, 36 I've got of these laying around, I'll load them all on my trailer along with some other scrap steel I have. I'll take it to the scrapyard and I'll sell it as scrap steel, okay? So let's talk about some of the other stuff we got off of this computer. We got the motherboard. We've talked pretty extensively about it. We've got the daughter cards or expansion cards here, but we've talked pretty extensively about them. Okay, that one I'm going to resell. These two are going to get scrapped out. Okay, so we know that. What else do we have? Well, we've got a floppy drive, a DVD-ROM drive, and ordinarily you would have a hard drive in a computer. This computer didn't happen to have a hard drive, so I just grabbed one off my pile of hard drives. So, what can you do with these? Well, again, you can just include them with the computer and sell them as scrap steel, but you may not want to do that. I'm going to do that with the floppy drive because it has a little circuit board in it, but it's buried deep inside all this steel, and it's not worth my effort to try and get it out, and there's very little on that board that's worth anything. So I'm gonna throw this inside the computer case and send it off to the scrapyard. It's mostly steel, got a little motor in it, some other stuff, mostly steel. So we'll just throw that in the computer case. DVD-ROM drive. Again, there's a board in here. Now, a lot of times, the board, though, in these is actually worth the effort of going after and not that difficult to get out. Now, of course, this is where your different screwdriver bits come in handy, because that particular, let me find the right bit here in amongst all of my bits. That particular screw just not gonna come out with that bit. In fact, I might need to get a small Phillips screwdriver. Wait a minute. All right, so we can take this out, these 4 screws. And you're going to need a variety of screwdrivers and screwdriver bits. Different computers have different stuff. So if we can get this there's board in there. More steel, that's going to go in the computer case, okay? So there's a board here. Lots of IC chips on it. So that we can keep, especially if you're into micro scrapping. These chips are nice because they're very low profile, thin IC chips. There's not a lot of plastic there to get in the way of the good stuff inside the chips. So that's good stuff there. Now, if you look really closely, I don't know if you can see it, but there's gold fingers on this cable going to the read-write head here. You can save that if you like. That one does not have gold. That one does not have gold. Now, the read-write head in here, there is some gold on it too. It's a little bit of an effort to get to. Usually, I don't bother because I'm in too much of a hurry. I'll just take this, now that I've got the easy stuff out of it, and I'll throw this back in the case. If you want to micro scrap that head out, you can do it and set it aside. That's up to you. Okay, hard drive. Most of your computers are going to have a hard drive. There's a board. I'm not going to take this apart because I'm going to have to go find my little tiny star bits to do it. But there's a board here. This board has IC chips on the other side of it. It's got gold fingers here for the power connection, the data connection, and it's got some gold pads here that connect to a feed through that goes into the inside for the read-write heads. All right. Now, once you get those little tiny star bits, if you want to, you can take the cover off. And there's always a hidden screw, I feel it, underneath the label, so they know if you've messed with it, okay? And avoids the warranty. This hard drive is 20 years old. I don't think it's under warranty anymore, but I'm not going to take it apart just to not belabor this video. I have videos about scrapping out hard drives. So you can scrap this out. You can micro scrap this if you want. The case of the hard drive is forged aluminum. So if you micro scrap out your hard drive, save all the forged aluminum cases. You can sell them at the scrapyard. The covers are usually aluminum. It never hurts to check with a magnet. In this case, it's steel. Yeah, sometimes it's not aluminum. So that would go with scrap steel. Inside, there's read-write heads. The read-write heads usually have some thin gold plating or thin gold wires leading to the very heads. You can scrap that out if you want. It's a lot of trouble to get those, and it takes a lot of them to make any gold, and it's difficult to get the gold out of them. So I generally don't do that. A lot of scrapyards will buy hard drives whole. And, you know, if you collect a couple hundred of them, like I've been known to do, you can haul them over there and make a fair amount of money on them without doing anything to them other than collecting them. If you want to take these boards off, you can do that. You know, it's up to you how far you want to go. You can take it apart. You can get the pass-through connections, which have a little more gold on them, and you can get the read-write heads, which have a little more gold on them. Totally up to you how far you want to take it. Me, I generally have such high volume that I can't waste too much time on a single hard drive. Let's see, what else have we got? Well, we've got the extruded aluminum heat sinks here. I need to pull the clip off of this and put these two in my extruded aluminum bucket. That builds up fast. These big heat sinks are heavy. You'll also get some that have like copper inserts in them or copper heat pipes in them. Those are copper aluminum radiators. Set those aside. Don't mix them with your extruded aluminum. The scrapyard pays a separate price for those, and it's better than aluminum. So separate those out. The more you can separate stuff before you go to the scrapyard, the better the price you get usually. So we got that. Of course, we've also got the RAM sticks here and the processor with the nice gold legs. That's a beautiful thing. And then over here, we've got a bunch of wire that I can throw in my wire buckets. So that's how I scrap out computers, for those of you who are interested. That's pretty much the whole process, except I still need to get this stupid steel plate off the bottom of this motherboard. Most computers don't have that plate down there. It's something they did on older computers, and like I said, everyone's different. I'll figure it out eventually and get it apart. So anyway, that's how I do that, for those of you who are asking. I wonder if I can just... No, can't pry it up. I'll figure it out. One way or the other, I'll figure it out. So, like I said, I've got 35, 36 more to go. So I'm going to clear this stuff off the workbench and go get another one and do it again and do it again and do it again. I've probably got an hour more daylight before it starts getting too dark out here to work. So let me see how many of these I can get through. And I'll have a bunch of cases to take to the scrapyard when I'm done. All right. Well, I hope you folks found this video interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, whatever. If so, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next video where I'll be processing some of this stuff. Certainly I will be in future videos, so subscribe to see those future videos. And I'll see you then. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Bye. All right. I think I figured out how to get the motherboard off of this steel. All these little screws on the back for the serial parallel connectors and whatnot. I think all these little screws have to come out. And now maybe, just maybe, well, clearly there's still something else holding it. What it is, I am not certain. I don't see a darn thing. Well, I think I can get the daughter board off anyway. It's sitting in a little tray. I actually had to bend the tray down a little bit. And then when I did that, yeah. Now this has to slide this way. And then it comes off that catch there. So we got that. Now, so it has to slide that way. Yes. Okay. So I am prying the board the wrong way. That's the problem. But I can't pry it that way because this is in the way. So if I move that down, like so, am I still in frame? Yeah. You need to go that way? Let's see, this had to go this way to get off. This one I think needs to go that way to come off. Yeah, that's the way it needs to go. So if we slide it that way, yeah, there we go. Hey! Alright. I have never had so much trouble getting a regular PC motherboard off of the steel backing. That is a first. Some servers, yeah. Some server motherboards, very difficult to get off the steel backing. First time I've had so much trouble with a PC motherboard. Alright, so that might be what you're in for. But a lot of them, most 99% of the computers I take apart, the motherboard's just held in with 4 or 5 screws, pops right out. That's it. So anyway, there's your post-credits content. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.